Welcome to the podcast. This podcast is going to be entitled The Abortion Argument. This is one I've kind of avoided, but let's talk about it. Just to start out, so we're going to look at some different arguments and then just some other things about abortion to think about. And just so you know where I stand on it, I think abortion for convenience is evil. It's never justified for convenience. Let me reiterate. Morally, I think it's the same thing as murder. I don't think there's any difference between just shooting someone in the street and murdering them in the womb because you don't want them. Legally, I don't think they're the same thing. As far as a legal definition goes, I don't think abortion and shooting someone in the street are the same thing. But this isn't going to be a discussion about legalities because I don't really know how to deal with that. This is just going to be thinking about morally, just like what people should do, how we should think about this issue. The legal aspect is pretty complicated, I think. So let's start off with some arguments for abortion, in favor of abortion, that you hear floating around. And most of these are very emotional, not logical, or even very good arguments in my experience. These women are all in distress. The women who get abortions, they're in distress. This is a very scary thing to them. They don't like this. They don't want to do this. They're just freaked out. Okay, well, I'm sorry that they're stressed out, but what does it have to do with this argument? I don't even know why it's brought up. Yeah, I would hope that they're stressed out. It means they're not a psycho. The ones who aren't stressed out and treat it like it's getting a pimple popped, or they're getting a pimple popped, they're psycho. Or they're just misinformed, I guess, or brainwashed. I should hope they're stressed out. That has nothing to do with whether they should be doing it or not. It's such a dumb argument. I've never understood why people even bring that up. I guess it's because people on my side say, oh, they just want to get rid of their baby. Some of them do. What are we supposed to think when the feminists talk about it so nonchalantly? I guess they take it nonchalantly. So that argument just is stupid. It feels like a 12-year-old made it up, but they're scared. All right, I know they're scared. What does it have to do with this? Nobody demands an abortion because our side will say an abortion on demand, right? And nobody's demanding an abortion. Well, what do you okay. Yeah, they don't go in and pound their fist, I guess, and I demand an abortion right now. What's your point? They're requesting an abortion. Should we say abortion on request? Is that what you want? This is some of the same stupid arguments with illegal immigration, right? These like semantic arguments where it's like a person isn't illegal. Come on. It's just some of these arguments drives me crazy. Are people forcing these abortions on them? No. So how are they getting the abortions? They're asking for them. That's called demand. When you go to Walmart, do you pound your fist and say, I need a gallon of milk now. I demand a gallon of milk. No, but there's demand for milk, right? You can go get, when you rent a movie on Amazon, it's on demand. It's on demand. You can just rent it whenever you want. That's what on demand means. Okay. Remember when they used to say rare, safe, and legal? And that was Bill Clinton's deal. It was very creative. And, okay, rare, safe, and legal, that just means people can do it whenever they want, I guess. That sounds wonderful. But they weren't rare. I guess they were safe and they were legal, so... But that was at least... They wanted them to be rare. And I think RFK has said recently something like all abortions are a tragedy or something. All right. That's at least like a moral, you can tell the person is struggling with it. But that's just gone out the window now. Now you hear things like, no one should be forced to be pregnant. Okay, well, what is being pregnant? What does it mean when a woman is pregnant? It means she is developing a human baby inside of her. A miraculous thing. So, do other human beings have the right to interfere when another human being is going to be killed? Regardless of the reason? Maybe not regardless of the reason, but under certain circumstances? I think so. But no one has to be forced to be pregnant. Well, no one really. The only people who are forced to be pregnant are rape victims. And I usually don't, rape, incest, I feel like it's the same thing. I know it's not the same thing, but they're both raped, right? They were both forced to have sex. And we'll get to the rape thing, but nature is forcing you to be pregnant. Once you're pregnant, nature is forcing you to be pregnant. You can't wish it away. You can kill the baby, but you can't wish it away. It's a natural process. It happens all the time. It's what your body is designed to do. I'm sorry, feminists. Your body is designed to have babies. It's one of its primary functions. I know that you're not supposed to say that anymore. That's not all we're here for. Well, you're the only ones who can do it. I can't do it. Then yeah, you can't do it without us, but we contribute literally one cell. So it's a pretty important thing that you're doing or that you can do. So that, I don't know. That's my point with this is they don't even want rare, safe, and legal anymore. They like praise. They think abortion is a good thing. And what Jimmy Dore, he said, I'm not pro amputation, but I think people should be able to sometimes need their arms amputated or something. That's what he compared it to. But they're people are just pro abortion now. Like it's a wonderful thing. Like it's some new wonder medicine that we discovered or something. It's insanity. It's just a sign of a nation that's no longer Christian or no longer even Judeo-Christian or Muslim even. Muslims aren't for this. That's just a society that looks more and more like Sodom and Gomorrah. More and more pagan, less and less Christian. What about this argument? It's not a baby until it comes out. Okay. This kind of touches on my little observation about this. The closer you get to conception, the harder my argument is to make, at least legally, I think. And the closer you get to birth, the harder their argument is to make, especially legally. Morally, I think it's a human being in there, even when it's tiny. But I guess it's easier to make the argument that it literally at some point is a clump of cells, right? Than if they had, but it's still human life cells. It's a unique human life. So I think morally, if you get into the territory of just destroying human life because you are annoyed by it, that's a problem. Now, legally, I don't know how you make the argument that a baby that has 16,000 cells or whatever, legally you can't abort that. I don't know how legally you could make that argument, but I think morally you could. But this idea that, and our side always jumps to, well, a day before it's due, is it a baby? And they're like, no. Only the crazy ones, though, saying no because it's not out yet. Well, that's completely insane. I think anyone with a brain or who has thought about it, it's a baby. Get out of here. Come on. The only difference is that it's not out yet. So you hear that argument sometimes with a really extreme, either dumb, young, or brainwashed people, very like zealots, right? Fanatics, but abortion fanatics. No vagina, no opinion. So can trans women not have an opinion on this? That's that's the right one, right? Trans women, yeah. So my thing with this is, so women aren't subject to the draft, so they can't make decisions on war. They can't have a say in what we do as far as war goes, because they can't be forced into the military. Does that sound like a good idea? Is that a good argument? It's not a good argument. It's a stupid argument. Okay? But just because someone doesn't have a body part doesn't mean they don't get to say, yeah, that's a human being and you can't kill it. As part of society, we're not going to let you just kill human beings, because we don't let people do that in our society, because it's insane. Now, I get it, as far as the legal aspect goes. Okay? That's one of the arguments you have. Morally, I think it's a completely stupid argument. Legally, okay, maybe, but if we're just talking like, so because I have a penis and I can't have a baby, I can't recognize that that's a baby in your womb? Like, this is stupid. What are you talking about? This is so stupid. Again, like I said, most of these are really dumb arguments. They don't hold up. But they use this to trump all the other arguments. You don't have a vagina, you don't have an opinion. You don't have ovaries, you don't have an opinion. That's stupid. And let's see, what's the other one? Okay, last thing here. This is maybe the most controversial thing I say, and I admit that it's controversial, but I remember thinking about this. I don't remember why in relation to the slavery argument and the Civil War, but the slavery argument and the entire Civil War is a very interesting argument because it touches on government, it touches on how the government is structured, it touches on when should people be able to secede, what were they really fighting over, what is the point of this, or the catalyst for the Civil War. And it was slavery, right? Not states' rights. It was slavery. That's what the Union was dividing over. Anyway, and I think this is the same kind of argument. People who support abortion for convenience hide behind their right to privacy, just like slave owners hid behind their right to property. I'll say it again. Pro-abortion for convenience people hide behind their right to privacy, just like slave owners hid behind their right to property. And the reason I say that is because I think abortion for convenience is just as evil as slavery, if not more. It's really an evil thing to kill a human baby because you are annoyed by it, or because you don't want to take care of it, or because you're scared of carrying it to term. All of those things are real concerns. But killing a baby is evil. I'm sorry. It just is, no matter what. Now, there are, the exceptions, all that. We've all heard them. To save the life of the mother. Morally, I don't think that's a bad thing. Some people say, roll the dice. Well, if it's for sure that this baby must be terminated or else they're both going to die, then I guess you have to terminate the baby. I think even if you could communicate with the baby, it would say, well, yeah, I have brothers and sisters. I don't want mom to die. Now, if the baby was going to survive and the mom die, I don't know. But that one, morally, I just have no idea. But in real life, especially now, there was an abortion doctor on YouTube who's pro-life now. He goes around to colleges and gives these talks, and he said, it's never necessary to kill the baby to save the mom. You just do a C-section and you try to save the baby. This is stupid. This is just a stupid argument that people bring up to try to justify abortions. You just deliver the baby through a C-section if there's complications. That's all. It's really easy. Now, maybe there's some weird, who knows, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the outliers, right? Just like the trans thing, we're not talking about the 1 in a million person who has both organs and all that. We're not talking about the tiny, tiny amount of outliers. We're talking about killing babies because for the reasons that people want to kill their babies. Not these weird medical conditions that never, hardly ever, ever happen. And even that one's pretty rare. The life of the mother thing is pretty rare anymore. I mean, you look back through human history, what, half of babies? I think it's half of babies died in childbirth. And like a third of the moms at some point died in childbirth. Now that's a scary thing. That's really scary. It's not that way now, especially in rich countries, and we're not even talking about in poor countries where people are living in huts. That argument isn't even, I mean, the moral argument is, but the legal argument is completely different. So what are the consequences of my position? If you convince somebody, yeah, you shouldn't go through with an abortion, what would be if like all women who are considering an abortion just decided not to? They would have to go through with their deliveries, which is hard. I'm not saying that's not hard and scary. They'll have to, most of them probably won't have to pay for the birth because most of them are on Medicaid. If they don't and their insurance, okay, the financial considerations are a thing. The lifelong commitment to raising a baby, that's a real thing. I get it. The placing them for adoption, those are the results. Okay, now could we somehow figure out how to alleviate those issues? Yeah, easily. You make some programs, you pay for their medical bills. I get it that some people, well, that's not fair because I have to. Okay, it's not fair that you have to pay for criminals to live in a jail either. Sorry. What do you want? Abortions? You want abortions instead? I want people to be responsible. Well, people aren't responsible. Grow up. If everybody was responsible all the time, we wouldn't even need a government. We wouldn't even be having these arguments. But people aren't. So grow up. You're going to have to pay for some things. You'll be fine. All the rich people who freak out about this. I shouldn't have to take 100,000 out of my 10 million to pay for some. Calm down. It's part of living in a society. So, some spending money. Women will have to go through scary deliveries. I get it. I mean, I don't understand it, but I get that it's scary. And they'll have to place their babies with adoptions. Can the government pretty much solve those problems? Yeah, easily. It wouldn't take that much. There's ways to do it. And hopefully a lot of those women would figure out, I don't want to get pregnant again. Because they wouldn't have the easy way out. And I know abortion isn't easy, but they wouldn't have the quicker way out of getting an abortion. Now, what's the result of their take on this? Well, what we have now, a million babies getting killed every year. Is that what you want? And a lot of women thinking this is birth control. Because let's be real, most abortions are in place of birth control. They're using them as birth control. It's evil. It's disgusting. Shouldn't be happening. These women get pregnant. They're freaked out. So they think, oh, well, I have a get out of jail free card. I know they're not that flippant about it. Stop it. But this is effectively what's happening. They get pregnant and they think that this is a way out. And it is for them. Because they've been told that it's not really a baby. It's just a clump of cells. It doesn't matter. It's participating in evil and just justifying it because of your right to privacy. So we have their way. And then, okay, so then in some states where they have outlawed abortions, basically, this girl who was raped had to drive 12 hours. All right. How many babies weren't killed that year for convenience in that state? I think not even very many. I think, in fact, I didn't think about this beforehand. I think that abortions went up after the Dobbs decision. So all the women who are demanding their abortion are getting them in some of these radical states. Now, is the woman who got pregnant on accident wrong for wishing she wasn't pregnant? I don't think so. It's a huge deal. It's totally going to change her life. I get it. Then, oh, she's an idiot for, you did the crime, you do the time, and all that. All right, but that's kind of insensitive, and people make mistakes, and we shouldn't just dismiss these trials in their lives. This sucks for them. And, I mean, we all make mistakes. Especially, this is what Dr. Laura said one time. She's like, the one thing I'm going to ask God is, why did you give people who are horrible people the ability to have babies? What is the point of that? And I'm not saying everybody who gets pregnant is a horrible person. My main thing is, think about like a 15-year-old girl who's just messing around and got mixed up and now has a baby. That's hard. That's really hard. It's not nothing. And we shouldn't just look down our noses and what an idiot, We should be more humane about this and try to fix these problems instead of just looking down our noses at people who made mistakes. And there are creative ways that society can fix problems. That's the core liberal argument, is that society is a good tool for solving society's problems. And sometimes it actually is. Freedom and the market aren't always the way to fix everything. They are the way to fix a lot of things. People will just fix things. But sometimes there's no substitute for a good government program. I'm sorry, that's just true. And sometimes the market won't provide something that is needed, but that the market won't provide. And there are ways to fix those problems that will alleviate and I think deter a lot of abortions. So in conservative states, we should do these at the same time while we ban basically abortion, which a lot of states have done and which I think is a good idea. And, people will disagree as exactly how to do that. But you should ban evil if you can and then help them out. Help them so they don't do it again. Help them so they can get out of this situation. So maybe that they'll learn, if I am going to, do stuff that results in pregnancy, I'm going to take all the pills or get a whatever or get married before I have a baby and all that. But this shouldn't ruin their lives. And killing the baby is not a way to fix that problem. Another thing is to make the guys responsible. These dumb arguments, I'm so sick of these. See, we have a problem because we have these feminist arguments, and the men have taken the logical counterpoint. And this is a big problem because men are going to do that. And so men say, okay, so I don't need to get married to have sex. I don't need to take care of women because they need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. So if I take you out to eat and you get lobster, you owe me sex. This is a trade, right? Okay, if you're not going to have sex with me, then pay half the bill. How does that not make logical sense? If we're exactly the same, why does the man have to take care of the woman? We're just two people, right? I don't agree with that. But, I don't even think people should be having sex before they're married. So that's pretty strict. But my point with that is the men are taking the logical opposite end of this hardcore feminism. And you can see why they're doing it. And so what they say is, well, if a woman has a right to choose, I have a right to not pay for the baby. And my response is, okay, if the mom aborts the baby, then yeah, you don't have to pay for the baby. But if the mom has the right to choose and she doesn't do it and keeps the baby, then you still have to pay for the baby. I'm sorry. You created that baby and now you're responsible for it. So keep it in your pants. Right? So I'm not going to condemn the guy for making a mistake, but I am going to say you are responsible now. You can't just go around spreading your seed and get away with it because the location of the baby is with the woman, right? If the woman can't make the argument that, oh, I get to abort it because it's inside my body, the man can't make the argument that, oh, it's not inside my body, so I don't have to pay for it. And this will force men to be more responsible too. This is stupid. I don't know what to call it. Counter the men's movement or whatever. It's pathetic. Now, I'm not saying that the system isn't in some ways rigged against men. But when we start acting like we're victims, then who's going to not be a victim? If we're victims too and we're pathetic too, then the whole society is going to break down. I'm not saying women aren't just as important, maybe a little bit more. But, dude, we can't do this too. The men's rights movement really scares me because you have a whole generation of young men who have no sympathy, who don't think they have to take care of anyone, who don't think chivalry matters, who don't think that they should grow up and take care of a woman and their kids. And that's the end of society. You can, Star Trek and all that. Well, they're all single and nobody's married and everything's wonderful. A society will not work that way. I'm sorry. Human beings don't work that way. Human beings work in families. And guess what? The woman is pretty vulnerable when she's pregnant. And she's pretty vulnerable when she's taking care of the baby and the baby is vulnerable. And unless you want to get the state involved and the state raises all the kids, okay, which is basically the point where we're at now. I don't want that. So anyway, this is kind of I digress type situation, but I think this will teach both sexes, both genders, which I think is the same thing anyway, that you need to be more responsible. Yeah, we will help you if you get in a real bind, but if you can't keep doing this, these are the consequences of your actions. You can't just go have sex all the time with everybody and then abort the babies and run off and not pay for them if you're the guy. No, you're going to have to, sorry, you screwed up. So we're not going to have it just completely ruin your life like a debtor's prison type situation where, that was never the solution for debt. And I don't think ruining someone's life because they got pregnant out of wedlock is a solution for this problem either, but we need some kind of middle ground. And killing the baby is not a moral middle ground. I think the most horrible thing, other than killing the babies, about this whole thing is that this whole argument has turned people into thinking that human life is an annoyance, that it's something to be avoided, that if we could get rid of it, then we'd be better off. Women are told that you're not just good enough to have babies. You're not a baby factory. Well, okay. What if someone I don't know how to compare it. When they breathed out, gold dust came out of their mouth. Wouldn't that be pretty awesome? Wouldn't that be kind of magical? Your body just creates stuff that there's no other way to get it. That's pretty amazing. But what they have done is, that's just stupid. Human life is just annoying. That's not all I am. I'm not just a baby factory. I'm going to go build buildings, or I'm going to go be, work at a hospital. Okay, that's better. That's more important than making more human beings? and raising them to be good human beings, I'm sorry, that's not more important. Nothing is more important than having babies and raising them. It's the most important thing anyone can do. I'm sorry. It just is. So that's really what angers me about this thing, is that it has warped our perception of families, of babies, of pregnancy, of sex. And it's just kind of sullied it and ruined it. Kind of like pornography ruins things that are supposed to be special and private. This has ruined pregnancy, and people think it's a curse instead of a wonderful thing. Okay, and here's another thing about this. Pregnancy, I can't remember if I said this or not. Pregnancy isn't cancer. Pregnancy isn't a terminal illness. They treat it like abortion is the cure for a disease that they've discovered when they call it reproductive rights. Well, you already done reproduced once the baby is made. Sorry, the reproduction is over. The baby's already in there developing. You reproduced already. It's so stupid. Killing a baby has nothing to do with reproduction. You're just killing a baby. So let's just call it what it is, abortion rights. They always do this. Gender affirming care, reproductive rights. It's so stupid. There's all these slogans and jargon. Stop it. Let's just call it what it is. Now, I'm not saying pregnancy isn't really stressful and scary for women. I'm glad I don't have to do it. But it happens every day, all day, around the world. It's how we all got here. There's no other way for us to get here. And so it's not a terminal illness. And they're all acting like it's a terminal illness. It's a miraculous thing that women are able to do, luckily. And so what's the consequence of us not letting someone get an abortion? They are uncomfortable for 6 months. They're really uncomfortable the last month. Sometimes it's dangerous. I get it. And then there's a baby. And then they're like kind of wounded. The mom, I get it. There's recovery time. And then they move on. Women do it all the time. Some women do it a lot. And they're okay with it. It's hard. But they do it. And then they're fine. Why are we treating this like it's cancer? It's not. It's like if they act like if we don't let them get an abortion, their life's over. No, you're gonna be okay. Okay, now the rape aspect of this. This one really, I think, people really get manipulated on this one, and we need to think this one through. Because you hear stuff like, well, why punish the little girl? Just let her get an abortion. Assuming it's a little girl who got raped. Usually, that's the scenario they always use to go extreme with it, and that's fine. Sometimes you need to go extreme to get to the point of the heart of the issue. But just speaking morally and philosophically, is the baby produced by a rape a baby? Yeah. Is the baby different because it was the product of a rape? No. It's just another baby like you and me. Is it a crime against the girl? Of course. Yes, rape is a crime. Of course. Should the man be executed? I think so. Right? Straight up rape. And I know that, people will say legitimate rape. We're talking like rapes where it was kind of ambiguous as to what was going on. Maybe somebody was drunk. Maybe somebody was, the next day she was upset because she regrets having sex or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about when it's complicated. I'm talking about somebody forces and beats up a girl and rapes her. And the result of that is a pregnancy. Now, I don't really know how you would craft a law around this. It's very complicated. I don't even know how you would do it. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about morally, because it's kind of, I think, easier to think through. So is it the right thing to do to kill the baby because it was created through a crime? Is it the right thing to do if it's 2 years old? No. Now, there are some wackos, some logically consistent wackos, but morally they're wackos who say, yeah, you should be able to try your baby out and kill it up until whenever, because it's completely dependent on you, just like it is in the womb. At least they're consistent. But I don't think you can argue that it's the right thing to do to kill the baby just because it was created through a crime. And then so the question is, can the 12-year-old girl be expected to carry it to term? Well, is it a human baby? Yes. Can the girl's body carry the baby to term? Yes. Technically, yeah, it's going to be really hard on her, but she's capable of carrying a baby, so she's capable of delivering a baby. Her body is matured enough. So it's, the victim here is the girl. Is the baby yet a victim? Now, I guess in some sense you could say yes. If the girl decides to kill the baby or have it killed, will she be killing a human being? I don't see how you can say no. We've established that it's a baby. And yes, how it got there was a horrible thing. And the fact that she has a baby inside of her, the fact that she has to deal with this at that age is a horrible thing. But that doesn't mean it's not a baby. Just because the baby got there through a crime doesn't mean it's not a baby. The argument is the same if she wanted to have sex. What if she wasn't raped and she just wanted to go have sex and was fooling around and got pregnant? Does it change what the baby is? Shouldn't. I mean, it does to her, because this is not the consequence. If she chose, then it's the consequence of her actions. If she got raped, I get it. But that's the crime, is robbing her of her choice and forcing her to be pregnant, and all of that. It's a horrible crime. I think we should kill people who do that. I really do. Give me the gun. Right? If somebody rapes anyone, give me the gun. And I will shoot them, because I don't want that happening in our society. You should die if you do that in our society. But that guy's now out of the picture. Now we have a young girl and with a baby inside of her growing. What do you do now? What's the moral thing to do now? Regardless of how it got there. Does how it got there make it okay to kill the baby? You can't undo the rape by killing the baby. It doesn't fix anything. It fixes the girl's problem, because then she doesn't have to be pregnant anymore. But is fixing her problem worth killing a baby? Can you justify it? And this is the illogicalness of these arguments. You see Joe Rogan get all fired up. I think he was interviewing the guy from Babylon Bee, who's a Christian guy or whatever. You guys act like the 12-year-old has to carry it to term. And the guy didn't handle it very well. But he should have said, so is it a baby or not? Is it a baby or not? And if you're against killing babies in the womb, you have to be against killing them no matter how they got there. It's not her fault that she got raped, but it's also not the baby's fault that it's a product of a rape. So I know you want to undo the rape, but killing the baby doesn't do that. And now she's pregnant. So now what do you do? Is it better to help her deal with this thing that has been inflicted on her? Or is it better to tell her that it's okay to kill a human baby inside of her? Now, I do admit this one is a little morally murky. But again, the closer you get to birth, the less morally murky it gets. And here's another one of these arguments. You don't even know that you're pregnant until 6 weeks. Okay, does that make it any less of a baby because you didn't know it was there? What if you didn't know for 3 months? What if I don't think you can not know for 6 months, because I've been told you feel it moving in there. Does that mean it's not a baby just because you didn't know about it? No, just like it doesn't mean it's not a baby because it's inside your body. People aren't thinking these things through because I'm not allowed to think about this. I'm not allowed to talk to you about this because I don't have a womb. And so people just go round and round, and they're never really, like, you'll go on YouTube and you'll hear guys say, well, I don't have an opinion. Oh, stop being a wuss. You're trying to get these women? Do you really want these women? No, you want women who are going to agree with your point of view. So why are you trying to suck up to these stupid feminist women who don't want you anyway? Just say it. Yeah, I think it's wrong. There's certain circumstances where it's a necessary evil, but overall I think it's wrong. And then when all the blue-haired freaks freak out on you, you know you don't want them. What is with these weak guys? Come on. Stand up and say what you think. I mean, not in every situation. There's certain situations. But if you're involved in a political argument, say what you think, damn it. Okay, what about this one? Back alley abortions. But there will be back alley abortions, right? This is when Mitt Romney said he turned pro-choice and said, but I think he knew somebody or something who did a back alley abortion because the abortions weren't legal. And he's like, that's when I changed my mind. And I don't know what he thinks now, because I don't know if he knows why he thinks what he thinks. He's such a disappointment. Anyway, and then he changed his mind back when somebody proposed some kind of place where you would create fetal, what do they call them? Not fetal cells. Those cells that can turn into anything, right? Any kind of cells, and they have a medical use for them. And they proposed this place where they would create zygotes and let them develop and then harvest them. And he was like, oh, you can't have a human harvesting center. And that's when conveniently he turned pro-life again so he could run for president. Anyway, this is the argument you hear all the time. There will be back alley abortions. So in order to fix that, you can have clinics that specialize in killing babies so that you don't have a few back alley abortions. That's the better thing, to just make it a regular thing for people to go do. Really? Again, pregnancy is not a death sentence. These girls are just scared because they don't want to tell their parents, or they don't want to go through with it because it's scary and it's completely legitimate, or whatever reason, they don't want the baby, so they try to abort it themselves, and then sometimes they die. So that's a reason to just completely legalize it? Because a few girls will do something really dangerous and try to kill it on their own? I've tried to think of an analogy for this, but I can't really think of one. Kind of like legalizing drugs because people will do it anyway. Okay. So basically, I don't think there's any good arguments for it. Except, well, even then, and Ben Shapiro has made this point. All right, let's just make a deal. Because if you look at the numbers, and I think we can trust the numbers because in the last 50 years, nobody has had to lie about getting an abortion because you could get it for whatever reason you wanted. So less than 5% of abortions are for what I consider maybe legitimate reasons. Rape, incest, life of the mother, right? 95% are for birth control. Because they got pregnant and they don't want the baby, so they kill it. If we could make a deal and say, fine, no more abortions for convenience, all these other reasons, fine. Which is basically what these conservative states are doing. And it's basically what most European states have decided to do. European countries. Because they've been able to argue this issue for the last 50 years instead of just handing it over to their overlords in the Supreme Court. And even very liberal places. I need to look at the map again. I saw Sweden and the Netherlands. It's like 5 months, and then you can't have an abortion. It's 4 months or something. I think Poland has outlawed it completely because they're, pretty conservative. But nobody in anywhere in Europe, as far as the map I saw that has all the different laws, is like Colorado and California and New York, where you can just do it whenever you want. Those places, I guess it's like having slave states and free states. I mean, that's really what it kind of feels like at this point. Fine. They want to kill their babies. I don't know what to tell you. Now, for our purposes, people in conservative states who are basically banning abortion, we do need to have some, I think, moral middle ground where we pay for their health care. We could write intelligent laws to figure this out, where we set them up with people who want to adopt them. I mean, we can't really, I guess, like bankroll them, but they'll get Medicaid and they'll get food stamps. And, some people sometimes will justify it. They'll have horrible lives. So kill them. That's the solution. It's so stupid. Like, these people haven't, like, come on. You hear people saying this on YouTube, and it's like, that's your excuse for killing them? Is that they'll have horrible lives? What? Or like Bill Maher, who cares? It's one less person. We already got 8 billion. I mean, come on. That's where, he calls himself a Jew. He must just be a secular, like, cultural Jew, because I don't know how you can take that stance. I don't think he believes in God. Then why even be Jewish? Anyway, I don't get it. But there's got to be some kind of humane middle ground, and I think that's where most places will end up. I don't know how long California and those whacked out places will go down the road of shout your abortion and abortions whenever and nobody should ever have to be forced to be pregnant and all that craziness. But we in the sane world should also not go the other extreme and just say, screw them. That's not how we should be. Governments should try to take care of their people. And so we shouldn't just say, well, sucks to be you. That's not what we should do. And there are solutions where, there's enough people out there who will adopt these kids. Especially if you send out word that they're needed. A lot of people aren't looking to adopt. A lot are, but there's a lot who could adopt who don't really need to. But if they were recruited and said, look, you can save this baby from being aborted or ending up in the foster system or whatever, and we have this program, put yourself on the list, we'll vet you, and then you'll get a baby that will otherwise be in a tough position. Or these women will be deterred from going to a state where they can get it aborted because they know that they're going to be okay and that their little baby will be okay too, because they're not ready to take care of it. And that's fine. It's not fine, but we can deal with it. So don't be afraid to argue about this. Maybe not at Thanksgiving. Dennis Prager said, don't argue with people you're close to about politics. It's just a waste of time. It might not be a waste of time, but it's not worth the damage to the relationship. And that's That's if because some people can't handle it. Some people can handle it. They can handle some back and forth. Some people can't handle it, and they get all fired up, and it's just not worth it. But the problem is some people don't have anyone to talk to about this. Well, maybe just read some books about it or something. But it's not worth arguing it with the people who are closest to you about things that you don't have a ton of control over. So anyway, I think that's the moral middle ground. I mean, I've tried to think of all the arguments around this. There's not a lot of good ones, frankly. Thank you for listening.